Welcome to KNBR's Giants Warm-Up.
Way back there. Goodbye!
On the Sports Leader.
We are back. What's going on, folks? Kerry Crowley hanging out with you Saturday morning, getting you set for Giants baseball on the radio. It is a beautiful day in the city by the bay, Oracle Park, despite the Giants' 43-60 record this season should be alive, despite the fact they're playing the Angels, 41-63 after the Giants win 7-6, a final in 10 innings on Friday evening. One of the better back-and-forth games that you've seen the Giants play at home this season. If you're into scoring runs, if you're into uncertain finishes, if you're into walk-offs, last night was for you. And I think that's, kind of where I want to start this morning. Amid 103 games so far for the San Francisco Giants, obviously 60 of those games have been disappointments. You lose 60 of 103, you're 17 games under 500. It's not the way anyone expected this season to go. But one of the beauties of baseball is that over the course of 162, even the bad teams, even the worst teams, as this San Francisco Giants team is in 2026, one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball, even those clubs have their moments. And I think last night was one of those moments for the San Francisco Giants. After Jason Foley gives up the game-tying 2-run home run in the 8th inning, you're thinking, oh gosh, the bullpen's going to blow it for a 6th consecutive game. Remember, the Giants had leads in each of their 5 final games on that road trip in Seattle and Kansas City. They lost all 5. And so when Foley gives up that 2-run shot to Vaughn Grissom into the left field bleachers, I'm thinking, here we go again. This is the story of the 2026 San Francisco Giants. But credit to the relievers who came in after Jason Foley, namely Eric Miller and Caleb Killian, who ends up getting credit for the win in that ball game, for keeping the Angels from scoring and for enabling the Giants to come up with the 7-6 win. Rafael Devers bashing what we thought might be a ground rule double, but instead, because the game-winning run scores and Luis Arias does not come home and touch home plate, that's the way that things go for the San Francisco Giants. So they win 7-6. They get to look forward to an opportunity to potentially take this series today against the Los Angeles Angels. Logan Webb goes last night. He goes 6 innings, 4 runs allowed, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Obviously not the best season of his career. It's not the best season of anyone's career on the San Francisco Giants. Webb's ERA up to 3.98 after that outing. The Giants did get 5 runs early against Grayson Rodriguez, who's really struggled coming off of the injured list for the Angels this season. But I do want to give credit early in the ball game to the Giants for, what you saw from Rafael Devers in the bottom of the 1st inning last night. The Giants go down 1-0 early on the Nolan Shanuel single. Zach Neto scored for the Angels. Bryce Eldridge draws a walk. And this, to me, is really one of the stories of the summer, is Bryce Eldridge's plate discipline for the San Francisco Giants. He is going to lead this club in walks this season. 21 years old, and he's going to finish on top in walks, despite not coming up until, May 8th for this ball club. He draws 2 last night, including 1 in the bottom of the 1st inning that extended the inning after Luis Arias and Elliot Ramos had made early outs. Devers comes up, and he again swats a ball out toward left field, gets it over the fence for home run number 21. Devers now has 41 home runs in a San Francisco Giants uniform since being acquired in June of last year. And it's not what anyone anticipated. Look, the average is low at 244. The OPS at 791, not where the Giants thought it might be. They were hoping more like the 850s. But, since May 1st, he's been a better hitter for this ball club. I don't think he's been as good as a lot of people advertised since May 1st. But after the putrid start to the season, Devers looks like someone who, again, can be a middle-of-the-order hitter for this team for the next couple of years, which is why, look, I think if the Giants get calls on Devers at the trade deadline, it wouldn't be prudent for this organization to pay down a bunch of money on Devers' contract. I think if they get calls on Adames, if they get calls on Chapman, maybe those are 2 players they could have to pay down money on just to get out from under those contracts. But I do believe that Devers, at 29 years old, has several more productive seasons ahead of him. I don't think the average will be as low in the future as it's been this season. I think the OPS has an opportunity to continue to creep up. And if he doesn't get off to such a horrible start in future seasons. Maybe, just maybe, there's hope that he could be a cleanup man for this ball club for at least the next couple of seasons. I'm not going to say that contract's going to age particularly well in San Francisco, but to go back to the introductory press conference that Buster Posey held with Rafael Devers after that June trade last year, he famously told John Shea, the San Francisco Standard, hitters hit, and I do believe that Rafael Devers still has what it takes to hit at a high level in San Francisco. I don't look at him, despite the Giants' problems over the course of the last 365, really 400 days for this ball club. I don't look at Rafael Devers as the main issue for this team. Sure, there have been moments of frustration. The scene in Miami earlier this year where he refused to come off the field, embarrassing Tony Vitello and Jonah Cox. I don't think that was a great look for this ball club. And I don't think the team's record since the Rafael Devers trade is a great reflection of what he can mean to a baseball club. I wish that he embraced leadership a little bit more. I wish that he embraced setting a great example for his teammates a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I think that you take a 791 OPS with the home run, with the power supply that Rafael Devers had. And I don't point to the Giants lineup as the primary reason that this team has struggled all season long. I look at the pitching rotation, the bullpen, some of the decisions made by the front office, the ownership group in the offseason, some of the in-game decisions made by Tony Vitello and his coaching staff is some of the major reasons that are ahead of the offense on the list of reasons the Giants are sitting here 17 games under 500 with 9 games to go until, 9 days to go until Major League Baseball's August 3rd trade deadline. Trades are going to dominate the discussion over the course of the next week here on KNBR. And really so, too, are the San Francisco 49ers. I know that this is Giants warm-up, but I do want to say that there was some significant 49ers news this morning and feel it's my obligation to provide you with an update here. The 49ers team announced that head coach Kyle Shanahan has suffered significant injuries in a car accident, non-life-threatening injuries in a car accident. ESPN, Adam Schefter, and Nick Wagner reporting that the accident took place on July 14th. Shanahan suffered a severe concussion, a broken nose, 3 broken ribs, a broken hand, and needed 40 stitches in his face. So, of course, we wish our best to Kyle Shanahan and his family on a swift recovery there. No more details really on the accident. And I know that this is Giants warm-up, and we're going to keep things focused on the San Francisco Giants here. But first day of training camp down in Santa Clara today, the media availability, and Shanahan will be participating in training camp on a limited basis as he continues to recover from what I'm sure was a very scary car crash that took place, again, just 11 days ago. So Kyle Shanahan recovering. Chris Forster, the assistant head coach and the offensive line coach, he will run things for the San Francisco 49ers at the beginning of training camp as Shanahan participates on a limited basis. And again, he's recovering from a significant concussion. So really no certainty on how soon he'll be back. We're expecting someone from the organization, potentially general manager John Lynch, to address reporters today at 11 a.m. down in Santa Clara. And so during the second half of Giants warm-up here, probably break in, interrupt with a little bit of a news update, anything we can gather from the 49ers and what they say about the more significant development in the Bay Area sports world this morning with regard to the 49ers and their head coach, Kyle Shanahan, who, again, we wish a swift and speedy recovery to after the scary car crash that took place just last week. So with that, we've got Giants warm-up for you this morning from 10 to 12:05. We've got Giants first pitch coming your way at 1:05 today. It's the Giants and the Angels. The Giants 43-60. The Angels 41-63. Giants in fourth place in the National League West. You've got the Angels in fifth place in a American League West race that has just evolved into chaos. Just not very good teams at the top of that division right now. So the Angels are the team that everyone has beaten up on, and the Giants hoping to take advantage with a rare home series win. The Giants have not won a lot of series. In fact, they haven't won a lot at all this year. They're the only team in Major League Baseball that has yet to win 4 consecutive games, and they're hoping that they can build some momentum entering the trade deadline, even if they know that significant players, including Luis Arias, Robbie Ray, and potentially others, will be lost here in the next 9 days leading up to that August 3rd trade deadline. Some other storylines I want to talk about this morning. Baseball Hall of Fame, Jeff Kent being inducted in Cooperstown on Sunday. The first player to go in to the Hall of Fame as a San Francisco Giant, wearing the San Francisco Giant cap since Orlando Cepeda in 1999, 27 years ago. It's an incredible feat for Jeff Kent, who's long overdue to be a part of the Hall of Fame, and we do anticipate that Buster Posey will be enshrined next summer, even though his tenure as president of baseball operations has not gone according to plan for the San Francisco Giants and for Posey. Doesn't take away the shine from what he did on the field, anchoring 3 World Series clubs. He'll be eligible for an enshrinement and on the ballot for the first time this fall, this winter. And we do anticipate, at least in these parts, after seeing Joe Mauer become a first ballot Hall of Famer, I think relatively obvious to me that Buster Posey will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I did find it interesting this week. The Giants in Kansas City against the Royals. Salvador Perez hitting career home runs 316 and 317 against the San Francisco Giants, tying George Brett for the most home runs in Kansas City Royals history. Posey, 150 career home runs. Salvador Perez, more than 300 career home runs. I do think Salvi, I think he's a Hall of Famer as well. So maybe that's a discussion we get into over the course of the morning. We've got our friend Connor Grossman from Giants Postcards dropping by. And if you're so inclined, please do feel free to pick up the phone, dial us in, 415-808-KNBR. Let us know what you would like to see at the trade deadline from Buster Posey, Zach Manassian, and the San Francisco Giants. A lot of news to get to here on KNBR this morning. On the other side, we'll give you the lineups for today's ball game, and we will keep you updated on scores around Major League Baseball. With producer Rafael Corral, I'm your host, Kerry Crowley. We're just getting rolling this morning here on KNBR 104.5, 680, the sports leader.
Swing and a drive down the left field line, hit well, deep into the corner, way back there, and adios, Pelota! He hit a screamer right down the left field line, and somehow he kept it fair. Right past the 339 marker into that tunnel out there, and the Giants had gone ahead 2-1.
We're getting you in the mood for a crazy crab sandwich, some garlic fries, a cha-cha bowl, and some orange and black baseball. KNBR's Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the sports leader.
We are back here on Giants Warm-Up. Kerry Crowley hanging out with you here on Saturday morning, getting you set for the Giants and the Angels. Giants going for the series win today in what could be Robbie Ray's final start as a member of the San Francisco Giants with an expiring contract in the 5th year of the 5-year deal that he signed with the Seattle Mariners way back when. Ray could be a top left-handed pitcher traded at this year's deadline across Major League Baseball. A lot of contending teams could use another left-handed arm at the back end of their rotation. And quite frankly, Robbie Ray's done well in a Giants uniform. He was an all-star in 2025, but they don't need him. This team's not going anywhere. 43-60. What they do need to do is look at some of the young pitchers in this organization, namely Carson Whisenhunt, who now that Trevor McDonald is likely sidelined for the season, will already be getting an opportunity. I think Joe Whitman, who's been pitching in the bullpen in AAA Sacramento, he could come up and potentially extend out, start some games for the San Francisco Giants. Blade Tidwell, someone who could get a look during the second half of the season. Matt Tugboat Wilkinson, acquired in that Patrick Bailey deal with the Cleveland Guardians. He's someone I know the Giants want to get a closer look at the Major League level to see if that slow fastball, the 89 to 90 mile an hour fastball that Wilkinson throws down at AAA, if it can work as well against major league hitters as it has against minor league hitters in his minor league career. It's been a relatively surprising development for Wilkinson, both in the Guardians organization and then, of course, in the Giants organization since that May trade that involved Patrick Bailey and pick number 29. And well, speaking of pick number 29, the Giants did get some good news on Friday afternoon. It sounds as if Carson Bowman, pick number 29 in the draft, the left-handed pitcher out of Southside Christian High School in South Carolina, and really the top left-handed pitching prospect from the prep ranks, say that 5 times fast, in this Major League Baseball draft. It sounds as if Bowman has agreed to sign with the San Francisco Giants, join the organization, forego a college commitment to Wake Forest, and ultimately get his pro career started. In all likelihood, I don't think he'll be thrown in the Arizona Complex League next week. In fact, the Arizona Complex League ends relatively soon. Joshua Gonzalez and Luis Hernandez expected to matriculate up to Low A San Jose, but who knows? Maybe the Giants get a look at Bowman at Low A San Jose. And they also got some good news on Friday afternoon on Caden Wachter, the second-round draft pick number 55 out of Jesuit High in Florida, who was absolutely dominant in his senior season at Jesuit High. It sounds as if Caden Wachter will also be signing with the San Francisco Giants, which is a really good development for a draft class that relies on the pitching at the top. Jackson Flora, obviously, pick number 4 for the San Francisco Giants. They got Flora to go significantly under slot. I think he was due about $8.6, $8.7 million if he signed for the full slot, according to the Major League Draft pre-slot rankings. And I think Flora ended up signing for something like $7.995 million. So a very good bag for Jackson Florida, the right-hander out of Pleasanton, California, who ultimately pitched in college at UC Santa Barbara. But those savings, the Giants were able to reallocate to go nab some prep pitchers and convince them, hey, come right into the organization, get your pro baseball career started. And so Carson Bowman and Caden Wachter are on their way into the organization. They've already agreed to deals with Peyton Bonds, the number 90 overall pick, of course, the nephew of Barry Bonds, Carlos Martinez, 4th-round pick out of Hofstra, who had underwent Tommy John surgery last year, but came back this year and pitched quite well for Hofstra. They got some good run on college pitching in 6, 7, and 8. Those rounds of the draft, they took McNeese State right-hander Eric Knockstein. They took Jacksonville State lefty Bo Bryans and Louisiana Lafayette righty Cody Brash. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. If any of those three players, whether it be Eric Nockstein or Bo Bryans or Cody Brash, if any of those three players make it to the big league level and end up pitching in the bullpen for the San Francisco Giants, that will be a win. They took some high velocity arms, some guys who aren't necessarily starting pitching profiles who I think, could rise quickly through the Giants farm system. And if any of those three are in the majors by 2028, 2029, helping the Giants bullpen, that will be a win for senior scouting director Michael Holmes and, of course, president of baseball operations Buster Posey. But there's some other interesting things happening right now with regard to the San Francisco Giants draft class that I think are worth watching. They were able to sign 12th round draft pick Josiah Kemp, the nephew of former Dodgers outfielder Matt Kemp out of Choctaw High School in Oklahoma. There was some question as to whether they could get Kemp in the organization because he was a high schooler who was committed to OU. And it's tough for a kid from Oklahoma to pass up the college commitment, knowing that he's got major league bloodlines. But Josiah Kemp ends up signing with the San Francisco Giants, a very good sign for the organization. And because they've been able to knock out these deals with Carson Bowman, pick number 29, and Caden Wachter, pick number 55, they could potentially sign 16th round draft pick Dalton Wentz, who was a top 200 prospect according to the Major League Baseball pipeline rankings. He was someone who was projected to go first 3-4 rounds. Wentz ultimately slides all the way down to the 16th round. Giants take a little bit of a risk on the switch hitter, an infielder who hit 306 with a 629 OPS, 18 homers in 60 games for Wake Forest this year. If they're able to get him to sign, and from what I've read, the draft experts anticipate the Giants could potentially offer Wentz anywhere between $400,000 and $500,000, which would be about the equivalent of being a fourth round draft pick, then that would be a huge addition to the organization. It's like picking up an extra top 5 round pick for you. And again, not all of these guys are going to become major leaguers. Not all of these guys are going to hit their way through the minor leagues or pitch their way through the minor leagues and become standouts at the major league level. But the more upside you take in the draft, the more gambles you take toward the bottom of the draft with guys who could potentially pan out for you, the better off you are. You're increasing your odds of finding players who can ultimately help you in the big leagues. And the Giants did get some disappointing news this week. 19th round draft pick Mikey Bell, who just absolutely tore it up as a hitter at Gonzaga. He is not going to sign with the organization. He's going to hit the transfer portal and ultimately play for the Georgia Bulldogs next year, hoping that his draft stock will continue to rise and be a top 10 round draft pick next year. So Mikey Bell will not sign with the organization, but that does give the Giants some freedom to potentially go out, get Dalton Wentz, and then 20th rounder J.P. Robertson, a potential bullpen arm out of Ole Miss, a righty who throws really hard but didn't have a very low ERA last year with the Rebels. He's also unsigned at the moment. So the Giants interested in bringing Wentz into the organization, interested in bringing Robertson into the organization, and by getting Carson Bowman and Caden Wachter to agree to those deals that the Giants did on Friday, they can now turn their attention to signing players at the bottom of this draft class, throwing some money out at Dalton Wentz, seeing if they can get him to forego another season at Wake Forest, and of course J.P. Robertson as well. Getting either of those players under contract and into the organization, I think, would be a successful mark for senior scouting director Michael Holmes, who of course has run the Giants draft since 2019. He was someone that Buster Posey kept on after the Farhan Zaidi era ended in San Francisco. Posey didn't turn over every position in the front office. He did bring in a number of his own trusted advisors, but Michael Holmes is someone who the Giants kept around, had a stint in the A's organization as well. And the Giants hoping that, the 2026 San Francisco Giants draft, led by Jackson Flora, can ultimately help the 2029, 2030, and 2031 San Francisco Giants. And maybe Flora will be up a heck of a lot sooner than that. But it's the other guys, the prep arms in Carson Bowman and Caden Wachter, who I think are absolutely worth watching for this ball club. So the Giants can continue to add to their farm system in the coming days. 9 days to go until the Major League Baseball trade deadline. And of course, Robbie Ray, today's starting pitcher, this could be his final outing for the San Francisco Giants. And you look at Ray's career in the big leagues, 13 seasons, 6 in Arizona with the Diamondbacks, but he's made more starts with the San Francisco Giants than with any team outside of Arizona. Ray spent 6 years of his career with the D-backs, 147 starts there, 2 years in Toronto with the Blue Jays, 37 starts for Toronto, 2 years with the Seattle Mariners, where he was outstanding at the very beginning of his career in 2022 with Seattle, but ultimately underwent Tommy John surgery. That interrupted his second season there in Seattle, and that's why he was traded to San Francisco. After that 2023 campaign, he made 33 starts there. He also, Robbie Ray, made 6 starts at the very beginning of his career with the Detroit Tigers before being dealt to the Arizona Diamondbacks. And, the trade deadline is a time of year where a lot of guys are concerned about where they'll end up. They're, being included in rumors for the first time in their major league career. They're, facing uncertainty for the first time in their major league career. That's not the case for Robbie Ray. This guy has been involved in a lot of different deals, a lot of different moves over the course of his professional career. He came into Major League Baseball in 2010 as a 12th round draft pick out of high school by the Washington Nationals. And 3 years later, he was traded by the Nationals to the Detroit Tigers in a deal that sent Doug Fister to the Washington Nationals. Robbie Ray goes from the Nats to the Tigers in that deal. A year later, after making his major league debut, didn't pitch particularly well at the big league level for the Tigers in those 6 starts and 9 outings. The Tigers traded him in December of 2014 in a 3-team deal. Robbie Ray went to the Arizona Diamondbacks in that deal. Here's some of the other names in that trade. The New York Yankees sent Shane Green, the reliever, to the Detroit Tigers, and the Arizona Diamondbacks, here's the big news in that deal. They sent Didi Gregorius to the New York Yankees, who ultimately played a lot of shortstop there in New York. August 31st, 2020, Robbie Ray traded again, this time by the Arizona Diamondbacks as he was about to hit free agency. He was sent with cash to the Toronto Blue Jays for former San Francisco Giants reliever, left-hander Travis Bergen, who ended up making his debut in the Giants organization, but worked his way back to the Toronto Blue Jays. Ray became a free agent after the 2020 season. He signed the big 5-year, $125 million contract with the Toronto Blue Jays. Actually, no, it was not the 5-year not the 5-year contract with the Toronto Blue Jays. He signed the 5-year, $125 million contract with the Seattle Mariners the following offseason. So he spent a year in the Blue Jays organization, 2021, won the Cy Young, and what a platform year for Robbie Ray as he ends up signing the big deal with the Seattle Mariners, getting traded to the San Francisco Giants with a couple of years left on that deal. And now he's coming to the end of that contract. And to me, Ray, even at 34, 35 years old, as he will be next season, I think he projects to sign at least a 2-year contract, maybe a 3-year deal, and somewhere in the 20 to 25 million average annual value neighborhood. So Ray, in his major league career, a WAR of 22.0, 96 wins, 87 losses, a 3.90 earned run average, 285 career games, 280 starts, 1,500 plus innings, 1,800 plus strikeouts. And in San Francisco this season, a 3.33 earned run average in 110 innings. So an acquiring club will get a Robbie Ray who's relatively fresh and rested. He's been healthy this year for the San Francisco Giants. He's still striking out a lot of hitters, not quite as many as he once did at the beginning of his career. Walks are up a bit this year, but he's still suppressing hits, still suppressing home runs, and doing a good job of keeping the ball in the park. So Robbie Ray could be making his final start in a Giants uniform today, and he is a name to watch at the upcoming Major League Baseball trade deadline. So when we come back, we'll give you the lineups for today's ball game. We'll look at scores around Major League Baseball, and later on here in the 10 o'clock hour, we'll introduce our first and only guest today, Connor Grossman, who will join us from the Giants Postcards podcast. Connor does a great job writing the Giants Postcards Substack. We'll play a snippet of our conversation that we had on Friday afternoon before the San Francisco Giants took on the Angels and won 7-6 in 10 innings. It was Rafael Devers with the walk-off. Devers had a go-ahead home run earlier in the ball game. He was not the only hero for the San Francisco Giants on Friday evening. Luis Arias had 3 hits. Grant McCray had an outstanding throw in the 10th inning to take an Angels base runner away. Caleb Killian throwing a scoreless inning in the 10th to enable the Giants to set up that walk-off win. So Giants still 17 games under 500, inching closer and closer to the trade deadline. And as we mentioned, Robbie Ray could be making his final start in a Giants uniform and almost certainly his last outing at Oracle Park, as the Giants will hit the road later on this week and take on the Padres before heading to Texas to take on the Rangers. Ray's next start would be scheduled to take place in San Diego at Petco Park, but I would not bet on him making that start. I'm Kerry Crowley. The show is Giants Warm-Up. We're rolling with you until pregame at 12:05, first pitch at 1:05 right here on The Sports Leader.
Here's the pitch. A high fly ball right center field. Lee and McCray come together. It's McCray who makes a call on the catch. Peraza's going to tag. The throw will go all the way to third, and he's out! He's out at third! What a throw by Grant McCray! On one hop from way out there in right center field. Peraza tagging up. He was already in scoring position. Now the Angels, they're going to challenge this one. But we just saw the replay up on the big video board, and what a throw. He's out.
It's almost time for hot dogs, peanuts, cold beers, and orange and black baseball. Our Giants warm-up rolls on the sports leader.
We are back here on Giants Warm-Up. Kerry Crowley rolling with you until the start of Giants pregame at 12:05 today. First pitch coming your way, 1:05 p.m. Pacific time today. Robbie Ray goes for the San Francisco Giants. It's the young right-hander Ryan Johnson, 23 years old for the Angels. Johnson 2-4 with a 6.10 earned run average. Not great, but again, it's a Giants team that hasn't been great this season. 43-60, countered by the Angels at 41-63 thus far. Here are the lineups for today's ball game. Way that Kurt Suzuki will set things up for the Angels. Zach Neto, the shortstop, he's a trade candidate this year. The Boston Red Sox have reportedly got their eyes on Neto. We will see if the Angels end up dealing him. He's a nice young player. 19 homers, 46 driven in, 13 stolen bases, a 238 average at the shortstop position, and a 776 OPS for the Los Angeles leadoff hitter. Mike Trout, one of the greatest players in his generation. He bats second, center fielder, 18 homers, 40 driven in, 8 stolen bases for Trout this year. Just a 233 average, but an 844 OPS. He's packed a punch when he's been healthy and at the plate. Still a feared hitter, and you do not want to lay a pitch over the plate against Mike Trout. Great righty-lefty splits throughout his career, and still, even at this age, and the injuries that he's dealt with over the past several seasons, not someone you want to see with a game on the line at bat coming up. Vaughn Grissom, who hit a home run in last night's ball game off Jason Foley to tie it at 6-6 in the 8th inning. He's back in the lineup today for the Angels, playing second base and hitting third. The right-handed hitter traded from Boston in the offseason. Or excuse me, I believe he ended up with the Atlanta Braves at some point. He was with the Braves. He was with the Red Sox. I don't know exactly how he got to the Angels. I'll do some more research on that. But Grissom, anyway, 6 homers, 40 driven in, a 255 average, and a 720 OPS. I do think that he was involved in that Chris Sale deal that brought Sale down to Atlanta, Grissom up to the Red Sox. But again, I'll do some more research on that. One guy who I do know a little bit about, and Giants fans do as well, that is the Angels cleanup man, Jorge Soler, the designated hitter. Just 11 home runs for Soler, who, again, he can hit the ball 500 feet when he gets it on the barrel, but it has not been too often over the past few seasons. 45 homers for Soler, 45 runs driven in for Soler, a 205 average, and a 665 OPS for the Angels cleanup man. Nolan Schanuel, the first baseman, 6 homers, 36 driven in, 1 stolen base, a 282 average, and a 748 OPS. Good contact man for the Angels. Joe Adell out in right field today, former top prospect for Los Angeles. He's the 6th place hitter for the Angels and Kurt Suzuki. 15 homers for Adell, 57 driven in, 3 stolen bases, a 241 average, a 685 OPS, but he can really go up and grab one in right field. It's just a shame he wouldn't be able to do it at Oracle Park because the wall is so high, but Adell famously good at robbing home runs, and you've seen it a couple of times this season, including one game where he launched himself into the stands, had a couple that he took away. Denzel Guzman is the 3rd baseman today for the Angels. Denzel Guzman, 22 years old. He hit 7th, 4 home runs, 14 driven in, a stolen base, 248 average, and a 675 OPS. Jose Siri out in left field today for the Angels. He'll hit 8th. The 31-year-old Siri has 5 homers, 18 runs driven in, 2 stolen bases, a 269 average, and a very respectable 797 OPS. And Logan O'Hoppe behind the plate, he rounds out the order for Los Angeles. O'Hoppe, once again, another former top prospect in the Angels organization whose career just hasn't quite panned out the way that the organization and O'Hoppe hoped that it would at the major league level. 4 homers, 23 driven in, a 211 average, and a 575 OPS for the Angels backstop. Here's how Tony Vitello will set things up for the San Francisco Giants today. Fresh off of a 3-hit night, Luis Arraez, who'd been struggling of late, he's back at the top of the order. 4 homers for Arraez, 37 driven in, 8 stolen bases at second on the ball club, a 324 average. He'll contend for a batting title the whole way, and an 810 OPS. Elliot Ramos will hit second for the Giants today. 9 home runs on the year for Ramos. 31 driven in, a 263 average, and a 744 OPS. He's looking for his 3rd consecutive 20-plus home run season. I think it's going to be a tough task to get there. Ramos did miss a significant chunk of the year with an injury, and so getting to 20 will be difficult. Bryce Eldridge in the 3 spot today for the Giants. I maintain the Giants ought to hit Eldridge in the 2 slot, especially against a right-hander like Ryan Johnson. Get Eldridge as many at-bats as possible. I understand their desire to have some balance in the order, especially to avoid some late left-handers coming out of the bullpen, but I think Arraez and Eldridge are so good together at the top. It doesn't really matter if you've got a lefty opposing you in the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning. Eldridge double digits in home runs, the first 21-year-old in the organization to hit double digits. He's got 10 on the season since Jack Clark in 1977. How about that? Nearly 50 years ago that was the case. Eldridge, of course, 23 runs driven in, 1 stolen base, a 266 average, and 835 OPS, which is the best mark of any hitter in this starting lineup today for San Francisco. Rafael Devers, the walk-off hero from Friday's ball game. First baseman has 21 home runs on the season, tied for the team lead, 56 runs driven in, a 244 average, and a 791 OPS. Casey Schmidt will bat 5th for the Giants today. He is surprisingly tied for the team lead, a career year for Casey Schmidt, who's been so good filling in at the hot corner for Matt Chapman. 54 driven in, 9 stolen bases for Schmidt, a 272 average, and a 792 OPS. Giants will absolutely take that. Jung-Hoo Lee hits in the 6th spot today for the Giants, and his average finally dipping under 300 after an 0 for last night. Lee with 5 homers, 34 runs batted in, 6 stolen bases, a 299 average, and a 754 OPS. Lee's name has come up in trade discussions, at least according to national media members, over the course of the last week or so. And I think if the Giants get a deal, they ought to take it, because the remainder of that contract, you don't know how it's going to play out. It's possible Lee in his prime could have an even better season in 2027. I don't know that I'm buying that right now for a player who's been struggling over the course of the last 2 weeks. And speaking of struggles, Willy Adames down in the 7th slot today for the Giants. 18 homers for the Giants shortstop, 45 runs driven in, 2 stolen bases, a 225 average, and a 705 OPS for Adames. Drew Gilbert, the center fielder today for San Francisco. Gilbert gets the call again, despite Grant McCray making the sensational throw in the 10th inning last night. And we heard that on the way in. Great production from Rafael Corral to hear that highlight of Grant McCray. But man, what a throw that he uncorked in the 10th inning over to Casey Schmidt over at third base to get what would have been the go-ahead run for the Angels. Gilbert back in the starting lineup, 4 homers, 21 driven in, a 233 average, and a 673 OPS. No word yet on if and when Harrison Bader will return for the San Francisco Giants. They're hoping that he can play again this season, but just a lost year for Bader, who signed the 2-year, $20.5 million contract to be the Giants' everyday center fielder, and he's been pretty much the everyday on the IL center fielder for this ball club. And then Daniel Susac gets the call behind the plate. Susac and Drew Cavanaugh have been splitting the catching duties. Susac, no home runs in his rookie season. The former first-round draft pick of the A's out of Arizona does have 15 runs driven in, 2 stolen bases, a 257 average, but a measly 625 OPS for Susac. We already mentioned the pitching matchup today. Ryan Johnson for the Angels, 23-year-old, has a 2-4 record with a 6.10 earned run average, and Robbie Ray goes for the San Francisco Giants, perhaps for the final time at Oracle Park. 8-6, a 3.33 earned run average for Robbie Ray. Let's take a quick look at scores around Major League Baseball, really matchups around Major League Baseball, as there's only one game in progress right now. The Royals and the Tigers 1-1, top of the 3rd inning in Detroit, as Kansas City fresh off the sweep of the San Francisco Giants. Casey Mize on the hill right now for Detroit, which is 50-54, and trying to avoid trading Tarek Skubal, but it looks like Scott Harris will potentially be doing that at this year's deadline, as the Tigers have fallen off a little bit of late. Scores from around Major League Baseball on Friday night. Of course, the Giants won 7-6 in walk-off fashion. You know that if you've been paying attention to this show this morning and to last night's ball game. The Rockies beat the Milwaukee Brewers 5-2 in Milwaukee last night. How about this? The Rockies improved to 42-63, and Tommy Sagano gets the win in that ball game for Colorado with a 4.698 ERA. Or with a 4.69 ERA, Tomoyuki Sagano now has 10 wins for the Colorado Rockies. 10 wins for the Rockies of their 42. Jordan Romano gets the save in that ball game for Colorado. Another final in 10 innings yesterday. The Pirates lose 3-2 to the Chicago Cubs at PNC Park. Two teams that are over 500 right now. The Cubs 13 over, and the Pirates 2 games over. Pittsburgh could be a sneaky buyer at this year's deadline. And they just DFA'd former closer Dennis Santana, who could be on the waiver wire right now, could be an intriguing addition for the San Francisco Giants. Tigers beat the Royals 2-1 yesterday. Skubal was outstanding. He improves to 7-5 with a 2.70 earned run average. Kenley Jansen saved number 12 for Detroit in that one. Not going to get used to Kenley Jansen pitching for the Detroit Tigers. The Arizona Diamondbacks improved to 55-49 with a win over the Washington Nationals 3-2. It was Eduardo Rodriguez who gets the win, 9-3 now with a 2.64 earned run average. Paul Sewald saved number 24 for Torrey Lavellos Ball Club. Zach Littell, the bulk man in that ball game as Washington used an opener. He falls to 7-8 on the season. Yankees won 1-0 yesterday over the Philadelphia Phillies in an absolute gem from Cam Schlittler, frontrunner in my mind, at least, for the American League Cy Young Award right now. 10-6, a 2.07 ERA for Schlittler, who outdueled Jesus Luzardo, who falls to 9-5 with a 3.31 ERA for the Phillies. David Bednar saved number 19 in that ball game for Philadelphia. Another final in 10 innings. The Braves take down the Orioles on the road 7-6. Atlanta 61-42. They're in a class right now with the Brewers and the Dodgers atop the National League. A big win for the Tampa Bay Rays yesterday, 11-3 over the Cleveland Guardians. They improved to 60-43. Shane McClanahan gets the win. He's 9-6 with a 3.09 earned run average. And the Rays, I think they're a team that fits well for Luis Arraez. If the Giants are looking, for a team in the American League to send Arraez to, Tampa could use a second baseman. The Dodgers beat the Mets yesterday 4-2. The Dodgers improved to 66-38. My goodness. Roki Sasaki, win number 4. He's 4-5 with a 4.71 earned run average. Tanner Scott saved number 16 as the Mets fall to 43-61. The Padres, the struggling Padres, they get a win over the Miami Marlins, who've fallen flat in recent weeks. The Marlins were one of the hottest teams in baseball in June. They've been one of the coldest in July. It was a 4-2 win for San Diego. Adrian Morejon with win number 8. He's 8-2 with a 3.25 earned run average. How about Mason Miller? Save number 26. He could be dangled at the trade deadline if AJ Preller wants to shake things up. Boston Red Sox pick up a 6-4 win over the Blue Jays. No team hotter in the month of July than Boston, which is now 4 games over 500 at 53-49. Garrett Whitlock, he's 6-1 with a 2.13 earned run average. He gets the win in that ball game for the Red Sox. And Aroldis Chapman saved number 24. The Astros take down the White Sox 9-5. Former Giant Kai Wei Tang gets the win in that one. He's 5-6 with a 4.35 earned run average. Giants could do worse than having Tang in their rotation right now. Texas Rangers win 5-4 over the Seattle Mariners yesterday. Gray gets the win, Latz the save. Rangers 52-51. Yep, that's good enough for first place in the AL West. At 52-51, they're ahead of the Mariners at 51-53, and the Astros at 51-54. The A's, they won yesterday over the Twins 2-0. Jorge Lopez moves to 5-4 with a 6.12 ERA. My goodness, Harris save number 8 in that ball game. And the Reds take down the Cardinals 4-2. Tough decisions at the trade deadline for the Cardinals, who are fading ever so slightly right now. They're still a game over 500, but a lot left to work out in the 9 days leading up to Major League Baseball's August 3rd trade deadline. One team we know will be trading away veteran assets. That's the San Francisco Giants, who take the field today with a 43-60 record up against the Angels at 41-63. For Los Angeles. I'm Kerry Crowley. This is the Giants pregame show. Giants warm-up. We are rolling with you until 12:05. First pitch coming your way at 1:05 today from Oracle Park as the Giants go for the series win. On the other side, Connor Grossman, who writes the Giants Postcards podcast. We taped an episode yesterday, who writes the Giants Postcard Substack and tapes the Giants Postcards podcast. We taped an episode yesterday, and we'll play a snippet from that here at the beginning of the 11 o'clock hour, maybe a little bit before 11 a.m. I'm Kerry Crowley. We're rolling with you right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Now back to the show built for the orange and black family. This is Giants Warm Up on KNBR, the sports leader.
We are back here on Giants Warm Up. Kerry Crowley rolling with you until Giants pregame at 12:05. First pitch coming your way from Oracle Park this afternoon, 1:05 p.m. Pacific Time. The Giants end their 5-game skid on Friday evening. They win in walk-off fashion 7-6 on the ground rule double. Well, we can't call it that from Rafael Devers, but we've discussed that plenty. 2 for 4 for Devers last night, including a home run, a walk, 3 runs driven in. The Giants improved to 43-60. The Giants, however, have struggled over the course of this entire 2026 season, and as teams like the Red Sox and the Cardinals, Phillies, who got off to slow starts, continued their revival, it's a question of why the Giants have struggled to get anything going, get a 4-game win streak. They're the only ball club in Major League Baseball that has not won 4 in a row this season. Who knows? Maybe they'll get 4 over the next couple of days here in San Francisco. But here to help us break it down, we've got our friend Connor Grossman, who joins us from the Giants Postcards Substack and the Giants Postcards podcast. Connor and I caught up on Friday afternoon before the Giants and the Angels played to discuss what's been holding the Giants back this season and look back at the week that was in San Francisco Giants baseball. Connor, welcome in.
But what has been kind of crazy is watching the revival of the Red Sox. Exactly a month ago today, Kerry, the Giants were 13 games under 500, and the Red Sox were 14 games under. Worse record than the Giants. Fast forward to today, one historic 15-game winning streak later, the Red Sox are in playoff position. They've got a 2-game lead on the third wild card in the AL, albeit the AL playoff race is not as robust as the NL, but point stands. 3 games over 500. The Giants, well, they are 18 games under, a 21-game swing between the two teams in a month. And then the other team I want to bring up is the Phillies. Remember when the Giants went to Philadelphia earlier this season, that was the day the Phillies fired Rob Thompson, promoted Don Mattingly from bench coach. Phils were 9-19. What do you think the Giants' record was that day they went to Philadelphia? So we're talking 28 games into the season.
Let's say 11-17.
13-15.
Wow, they were that close to 500.
Right. And it is a good reminder to check. I'll speak for myself. It's a good reminder to check myself because I'm pretty sure I felt the season was over at that point, and they were merely 2 games under 500, let alone 18. And the Phillies were 10 under. Part of the reason they fired Rob Thompson. They thought they had a good roster, and they certainly weren't getting the results. So you know where this is going. The Phillies swept the Giants that series. They rattle off 16 wins in 20 games, and now they're in playoff position, and they're about 10 games over 500. So I think it all leads to the question, Kerry, what do these teams, the Phillies and Sox, what do they have that the Giants don't? Is it just good players? Why aren't the Giants capable of winning literally 4 games in a row? Only team in baseball yet to do that. And why can these teams just turn the ship around when it seems like, why are they capable of turnaround? Because all 3 of these teams were left for dead, and only one of them is still dead.
Interim managers? Is that the answer? Sorry,
is
Tony
Jace
Vitello.
Tingler the big unlock for the Giants season to turn around?
For the 2026 Giants, it's got to come down to some level of pitching in Boston and Philly because the Giants lineup is not historically awful. The Giants bullpen is historically awful. You talk about the 5 consecutive losses that they had going into Friday night's game against the Angels, and all 5 of those games they led. All 5 of those games they had the lead, and the bullpen or the starter at some point lost it for them. This team has been unable to pitch all season long, despite the fact that Logan Webb and Robbie Ray and Landon Roop all have respectable ERAs. It's just amazing to me how things have never aligned for this team. So I don't know, but it's poor organization as well. There are things that they could have done Adrian Hauser needed an opener in front of him when he was in the rotation. They never tried that.
Right. That feels like a third rail topic in the upper reaches of the Giants front office.
Exactly. Like, when Bryce Eldridge came up, he was clearly ready to play, and he was playing every other day for like a week and a half. They just didn't need to do a lot of the things that they've done this season that have set them back. And I don't think it's as simple as pointing to one thing or another thing. It's like, it's always a 50-step process, and they've gotten 48 of the steps wrong.
Yeah, I mean, your first point is probably the most correct one in that it probably just comes down to pitching and getting some consistent, just the floor being raised higher than it has been for the Giants. It has just been such a wild ride. Tyler Mahle and Hauser's ERAs have been in the 5s and the 6s, and when through, I guess, 40% of your starting rotation can't be relied upon, and honestly, everyone behind Webb and Roop and Ray, right. It just hasn't been consistent enough. And the bullpen has just been a game of Russian roulette. Even when you look at and you have ERAs that aren't even that bad. Brubaker, complete 180 on Brubaker. The D is in the mail on the way. Even Caleb Killian's, I don't have his stats in front of me, but I bet his stats wouldn't be as bad as the emotions people feel when he comes into a game.
Well, because he was also appointed as the closer. And when you're appointed the closer on a team that doesn't have games to close, and then you blow said games that are winnable, people are going to hate you. And one thing to remember about a bullpen is, much like a manager, 25 to 27 fan bases in Major League Baseball hate their team's bullpen. 25 to 27 fan bases in baseball hate their team's manager. So this isn't unique to the Giants. It's just a special kind of hate because the Giants are bottom 5 in terms of bullpen wins above replacement, if that's even a stat.
Sure, it is right now. A new statistic added to the Giants postcards.
On your favorite Sabermetric podcast.
Yeah. That's right. Kerry and I, a couple of nerds. So anyway, I was thinking about it as the Red Sox were racking up headline after headline. I mean, 15 wins in a row, that's nothing to snuff at. I still think back to when I worked at Sports Illustrated and the then Cleveland Indians won, I think, 22 in a row.
Yeah, I remember this.
Right, and there was like a crazy walk-off to win. It felt like Cleveland's version of the Hatterberg home run. Like, it was crazy. It's so cool. Winning streaks, one of my favorite things in sports, just because there's no real rhyme or reason to it. It just happens, and historic crazy ones like that don't come across that often. So cool to watch. Not so quietly jealous sitting over here. And also, I guess, try this on for size. If the Giants replicated the Red Sox winning streak, well, they'd still be under 500.
Yeah. I mean, the series sweep against the Kansas City Royals, it happened in Kansas City, and it's in that 4:40 first pitch time slot. So I think a decent chunk of people who follow the Giants just write those games off and aren't going to watch them when the team isn't compelling. That just got swept under the rug so quickly. Like, they were horrible in Kansas City. The Royals are horrible. What is going on? What is going on that you're getting swept by the Kansas City Royals?
Who had a worse record than the Giants going into the series. Like, they
not after Wednesday, 43-60, inched a half game ahead of them.
In some ways, this was a repeat of, this was a sequel to the 2014 World Series, and that these teams were on even footing, just not where either of them expected to be. And the Royals clocked the Giants, which brings us to America's favorite podcast segment, the best and worst thing we saw in the last week from the Giants. And I'm going to cheat because we're at the point in the year where cheating is acceptable.
You got to.
I'm doing best and worst thing wrapped into one.
Wow.
And it is about my favorite player to discuss, one William Adames. You think his name is William?
I don't, because it's Willy.
Yeah, it's probably not. So, Willie Adames. Oh, Willie. Let's start with the positive. Let's start with the best moment. Again, it's 2014 all over again. Giants-Royals. Giants down to their last out. Bases empty. Jung-Hoo Lee, single. Okay, tying run coming to the plate. Here's Adames. He steps up. Shoots one the other way. Opposite field home run. Ties the game. Very cool moment. Every season invites its heartbreaking losses and its thrilling comebacks. And that was just one of those moments where, again, the Giants could lose 95 games this year, but they're still, because of the amount of games they play, just as likely to have a cool moment like that. It was awesome. Okay, great. Tie game, heading to the bottom of the ninth. Here comes the worst moment of the week. The most charitable bullpen in baseball gets back to work. Nobody more determined to give away leads than these guys. So, Royals, who are awful. Again, just a reminder, the Royals stink. Leadoff single, okay? Winning run on first base. Here comes the sac bunt. Daniel Suzak picks it up, aggressively fires to second, trying to make a play. Again, it was an aggressive play. I'm not so sure the runner was going to be out.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter because Willy Adames caught the friggin' ball standing in front of second base. As in not standing on the base or not even that close to the base, just in front of it. A bystander ready to watch his catcher throw the ball to first. I'd say the moment is unbelievable, but we know it is entirely believable. With him specifically, but really with the whole team. And it just that moment opened up a whole can of worms for me after the game, which, by the way, they lost, as I'm sure you could deduce at this point. And they lost on a bunt. Go figure. So Willy Adames, I feel like, should be, and to an extent, is easy to root for. He's always positive. He's upbeat, glass half full. We should all want as many people in our lives who are like this. And I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking, yeah, well, real rich coming from this guy. Mr. Positivity over here. Anyway, Adames comes across as a great teammate, the handshakes, the Powerade cooler, the whole deal. He's the biggest cheerleader Giants have had since Pablo. And yet, extremely poor fielder. Occasionally, a careless fielder. He's on pace to strike out almost 200 times. And I heard this stat. Someone floated this out over the week or over the past few days, and I checked it myself. In high leverage moments, in theory, the most important spots of a game, Willy Adames is hitting 161. That would be 9 hits and 56 at-bats.
Okay, so not that far below his season average.
It's funny. I did look. I wanted to paint a fuller picture of his offensive projections, but he's actually on pace to have the exact same season he did last year.
Yeah.
Which is to be about a league average hitter, according to OPS Plus. 30 home runs, hit somewhere in the 220s, 70-ish RBIs. And, okay, maybe that's the cost of doing business these days, even if it's going to be the richest free agent contract you've handed out in franchise history. So anyway, the whole incident in Kansas City, it just left me sitting with these complicated feelings for this guy. There's so much about who he is as a person to like, but on the field, the stuff that matters as far as wins and losses, he's completely maddening to watch. I honestly feel like I've never felt so torn about a guy. How do you reconcile those things, Kerry?
I think Willy Adames' 2026 season, from a mental mistake standpoint, is eerily similar to Elliot Ramos's 2025 season, where it feels like every 7 to 10 days, no matter what he's done at the plate to kind of put himself in the good graces of fans, and Ramos walks around with a smile. He's a great guy as well. He's kind of got that infectious smile when he does something great, easy to root for, former first-round draft pick. But
great
every
energy.
7 to 10 days last year, Ramos was losing track of a fly ball, losing track of outs on the bases, and reminding fans how much more there was to his development in his game. The difference is Elliot Ramos was like, barely pre-arb. He was early in his career. The Giants weren't paying him anything, and he was still learning at the major league level. Willy Adames is the richest free agent in San Francisco Giants history with the second largest contract they've ever assumed behind Rafael Devers. You can't have that out of Willy Adames. Like, there's a big difference between getting that out of a 25, 26-year-old Elliot Ramos and getting this out of a 31, 32-year-old Willy Adames.
Yeah, I mean, it's right or wrong. I do think you're right. The contract just sets expectations in a certain way. And the bar is just so much higher for a guy who's making 180 mil off the Giants versus Ramos, who's not. And also the fact that he's shortstop, center of attention in the diamonds. And it's just so often something is happening there that should not be happening. And when that moment happens, with the game on the line, the winning run going to scoring position, your rookie catchers trying to make an aggressive play, and you're just not in a position to make it in a really embarrassing way. I mean, that play would have been embarrassing if it happened in the third inning, and the fact that it was the ninth and a tie game with the winning run going to second, all that much more worse.
Yeah.
I
It's another reminder of how valuable Brandon Crawford's defense was at shortstop for
Sure.
over a decade for the Giants. Like, there were certain times where he was hitting 220 and he had some bad offensive seasons. But fundamentally speaking, he almost always made the right play. And fundamentally speaking, he was not that fast as a base runner, but he
Right.
ran the bases well. He knew how to run the bases. And this is something we've seen with Adames time and again this year, where it's just like, what was that decision? What was going on there? And so he can
Right.
hit the late home run in Kansas City to tie the game, but best moment of the week followed by the worst moment of the week. No other player I would have predicted would be in that conversation other than Willy Adames.
Right. Absolutely. I feel like maybe on some future good Giants team, or really just any good baseball team in a vacuum, Adames is just unfortunately miscast on the Giants again as their most expensive free agent ever, as the shortstop, as a guy who's hitting around the middle of the lineup. Again, in a vacuum on a good baseball team, I imagine one, he's not playing shortstop, and two, you're having him hit seventh or lower in the lineup, and you're just not needing as much from him. But because of the way this roster is constructed, because of the external narratives, given his contract and his stature, it's kind of just a bummer. So again, there are moments I like him, cool guy, what positivity he brings to the yard every day. I'm sure it's a lot harder than it looks to show up,
yeah.
especially to a losing team, 162 days over 6 months. I am sure that is a grind, and there's only so much a really nice paycheck can do to make up for that. But then when you're asked to show up in big moments or small ones on the field and you're not doing it, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
So I don't think Willy Adames is going anywhere. I think we're going to have a version of this discussion many times to come over the years, unfortunately.
Just with second baseman Willy Adames. So
that'll be the day. That will be the day. I'll pass the ball to you, Kerry. Best or worst thing you saw in the last week from the Giants?
I'll start with best, and it was the Bryce Eldridge start out of the All-Star break. 2 home runs in Seattle. There's only one thing that I really care about for the Giants for the remainder of this season, and it's seeing Bryce Eldridge get as many at-bats as possible. And Not only did he hit 2 home runs coming out of the All-Star break, which is a real sign of maturity and that he hasn't lost his swing or focus, but the Giants hit Bryce Eldridge in the number 2 spot in the order, which is the spot that he should hit every single game until he's 33 years old and can't do this anymore at the same level that he's been doing it for a decade plus. Like, Eldridge is the 2-hitter. He's the guy who needs to be in that spot against righties, against lefties. It doesn't matter. He proved against Seattle. Don't really care that he didn't have a great series against Kansas City. I trust him. He's going to lead the team in walks this year, which is an indictment on every player on the roster.
Insane.
He is very good at challenging pitches at the bottom of the strike zone. He understands the zone better than anyone else. First Giant who's 21 or younger to hit 10-plus home runs in a season since Jack Clark in 1977. I mean, he is everything Giants fans could want and more. He's the reason that you can point to 2028 and say, by then they might have a chance because Bryce will be an MVP caliber player by then.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not totally up to speed on what Eldridge's minor league scouting report was, but I feel like there was a lot of swing and miss in the bat, which we've seen to an extent in the bigs. But did we know his eye was this good? Did we expect him to be taking as many walks?
No, we didn't. And I think that was one of the things that he really refined at the final days of his AA portion and then up at AAA this year was like he really dialed in the strike zone. And I think having ABS at AAA was obviously very helpful for him. But just getting the knack for what he really has mastered is the bottom of the strike zone. He knows when a pitch is below his knees. He's very good. He had a call in Kansas City that was like 1/10 below the strike zone that he got correct.
Yeah.
The Giants are going to get to the point by 2027 where no one else should be challenging at the plate. It should be catchers and Bryce Eldridge should be the get two people allowed to challenge in a given game. Because, you know,
Yeah.
you get the other thing with Adamas is like you get the crazy challenge where the entire ball is on the plate and he'll be tapping his helmet. You're like, come on, man.
And it's the most negativity you can get out of Kruk on air, which
Yeah.
is that there should be a $50 fine if you're going to challenge a pitch that's entirely in the strike zone.
Yeah.
Yes, there's definitely some Brandon Belt reincarnated vibes with Eldridge at the plate, flexing how good his eye is, his discipline at the plate. I was looking back after our last discussion, Carrie, at our probably our first pod or our last pod right before opening day. We did some over-unders predictions. I Giants Postcard Sportsbook set the over-under for Bryce Eldridge home runs at 10.5.
Wow.
And you rightly took the over. And here we are today at 10 home runs exactly. I feel pretty sure the over is going to hit. And I, negative Nancy, glass half full guy over here, took the under because he hadn't hit a major league home run up to that point. But how things have changed over a couple months. I feel
you did not believe in the exit velocities that Bryce was producing last year. Here our Sabermetrics host, not drinking his own Kool-Aid.
He was making some hard outs. I'll give you that. But it just at that point at the end of last season, it was hard to decipher a hard out from an easy out. They were just outs all the same. We also did. I texted you about this. Tony V ejections over under 4.5.
I could actually get into my worst thing I saw this week with Tony V's ejection included in the answer.
Let's hear
it.
I
think you should
go.
set the table with our over-under.
Okay, yes. I set the over-under at 4.5, which when I remember saying it, and it felt like one ejection too high, but for the sake of an over-under, we want something, I don't know, meaty to wrestle with, and you took the under, which I think was the smart bet. I took the over just for the sake of, we don't really know what this guy is. He's an unknown quantity, and his ejection in Kansas City gave him 3 on the year, and with 60-ish games to go and a team as bad as the Giants, that wouldn't rule out 2 more things to get mad about on the field.
No. I think that Tony is also, Mike Kruko's pointed this out. He feels like umpires are bullying him a little bit. They feel like he's so inexperienced and doesn't know things that they can just take advantage of that. But worst thing I saw this week was, and I believe this was the sequence where Tony V was ejected. Lots happened this week. LeBron James signed with the 76ers, 49ers.
Breaking news.
Camp. Yeah. So it's Wednesday. Vinny Pasquantino leads off the 7th inning with a double, and it's who's at the center of the action? Willy Adames. Either
I got 2 Willy Adames newsletters this week. It was a good week for postcards.
Either not keeping the glove on or forcing Pasquantino off the bag. Whatever. He's eventually ruled safe. Vitello comes out of the dugout. He's irate. Although some people pointed this out, and I kind of agreed with them. His heart didn't quite seem into the ejection on Wednesday. It was kind of like I'm going to go through the motions and get tossed to fire up my team.
Yeah.
Landon Roop spinning a gem to that point in the ball game. Tony V gets thrown out. Pasquantino standing on second base. And I believe this is when Sal Perez hits the 2-run home run. Am I correct there?
Yes. Right after Pasquantino hits the double because it's a 2-run homer. Now it's a 3-2 Giants lead instead of 3-0.
I am not playing prediction markets, but if I were, I would be very selective and maybe do it once a week. And that would have been my one moment to bet on next batter home run. Couldn't have cared if you send up, like someone who just Alexi Amarista, guy who is never going to hit a home run.
Is he on the Royals?
Alexi Amarista, former San Diego Padre middle infielder who light hitting.
We're naming names.
But I just total 2026 Giants situation for the next batter to homer there.
Totally agree. I think regarding Tony V's heart not being into the ejection, I feel like, I do feel like his emotions were a little bit on tape delay, where I think he was expecting to go out there and be like, hey, like, we want to challenge that. Almost like there was some misunderstanding. Yeah. And then he's told you can't challenge because it's a subjective ruling, I guess, based on the umpire's opinion that Adames shoved him off the bag, which he definitely did not. And Tony V just kind of walked back to the dugout stunned. And I don't know if he decided to start chirping the third base umpire, if the third base umpire said something to him. But it turned into, I think, Tony V shouting, like, pay attention. Something seemingly innocent. I'm sure he said some version of the magic words to get tossed. And then the on-field mics picked up the umpire saying, I told you twice. And then Flem went on a little tangent about Mike Estabrook, or the third base umpire, whoever it was, acting like the parents of the players and coaches on the field, which, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, that was, I think what I was thinking after that game is one of the many damning things about this Giants team is that a seemingly innocent moment, a break that goes against you, it just doesn't need to snowball into what turns into a 5-run rally.
Yeah.
Maybe it's looking too much into it to say that like one little leadoff double that was a 50-50 play is what sparked the 5-run rally. But I mean, on paper, it is.
It was.
And the worst part is it just felt entirely predictable.
All right, he is Connor Grossman of Giants Postcards, and we'll do a little bit more on the other side. We've got a conversation about the big topic that's sweeping around Giants fans and the discussions around this team right now, which is, of course, the rebuild. How much should Buster Posey look to tear this club down at the upcoming trade deadline? And how realistic is it for the Giants to take a huge step back this offseason? Ownership has been reluctant to do so. Larry Baer was on KNBR on Thursday morning discussing the possibility or lack thereof of a true rebuild in San Francisco. So we will do that when we come back. Kerry Crowley hosting Giants warm-up. Rafael Corral in the studio. We've got a lot more for you here on KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.
Giants fans, first pitch isn't too far away as KNBR's Giants warm-up continues on the sports leader.
We are back here on Giants Warm-Up. Kerry Crowley rolling with you. Saturday, July 25th, a beautiful day in San Francisco as your San Francisco Giants get set to take on the Los Angeles Angels. The Giants 43-60, the Angels 41-63, and yet somehow more than 40,000 fans packed into Oracle Park last night for the Giants' walk-off win over the Angels. Rafael Devers delivers the game-winning blow for this ball club. So, do you have optimism with this team 17 games under 500? The chances of you saying yes to that question, not very good, given what you saw this week. 5 consecutive losses, including a 3-game sweep, the hands of the lowly Kansas City Royals. And so, here to help us continue our discussion with the rebuild and with the moves that Buster Posey can make at the upcoming trade deadline, Connor Grossman, who joins us from Giants Postcards. We're going to play one more snippet from Connor, this one a little bit shorter, as we caught up on Friday afternoon discussing Larry Baer's comments that he made to Murph and Marcus on Thursday. So, Connor, let's break down those comments from the Giants president and CEO.
Larry said, in part, quote, "You're not going to get me to say, in order to be successful, you got to pull the plug and have several bad years. You won't get me to say it because I don't believe it." You know, Kerry, and just that snippet, that quote, I'm kind of with him. If you as a team are willing to spend a lot of money, you can, in theory, develop a good farm system while also having a competitive roster. Now, I don't think the Giants have spent enough money to get to 90 wins, which is kind of where you need to be to comfortably get into the playoffs. It kind of seems like they've been 40 to 50 million short, which might feel crazy to those in the ownership group that are actually footing these bills. But yeah, this Giants team over the past few years probably needed about a $300 million payroll if they were going to get 90 plus wins. But also when I look at this Giants team, the idea of tearing down the roster, I just don't know what you do. Like, do you really think you're going to get meaningful, high-impact prospects for anyone not named Logan Webb? The expensive veterans, even if you pay down these contracts, are you going to get any high-impact prospects back? Probably not. You're probably going to get some single-A teammates for Joshua Gonzalez and Luis Hernandez. Like, the only case I can see for trading these expensive guys is to free up the books and go out and spend more money elsewhere. And maybe you don't spend that money immediately, but at some point. So, I don't know. It sounds crazy, but I feel like the Giants' best option is kind of just to wait it out. I mean, maybe you trade Adames or Chapman if the right deal comes along. Devers is stuck, I'd imagine. I doubt they trade Jung-Hoo Lee. Larry mentioned him as one of the young guys, you know, in theory they're building around. So, I don't know. I'm not a, build up the farm system at all costs kind of guy, because if the Giants are guaranteeing 95 losses for the next 3 years in order to get a handful of lottery tickets in single and double A, I'm not really interested in that. I'm not.
I think that's totally fair. I wrote in my Section 415 newsletter that if the Giants don't rebuild now, they never will. Yeah. But I also mean that in the classic context of, okay, their rebuild doesn't need to look like the Astros or the Cubs rebuild where they commit to 110 losses 3 consecutive years, where they are purposefully bad at the major league level. They just need to find a middle ground between or not find the middle ground. They need to stop finding the middle ground between not making off-season acquisitions and blowing the bank. And they need to stop signing C-list free agents. Next offseason should look like Farhan's first offseason, which is the Giants committed $7 million to Derek Holland, $6 million to Drew Pomeranz, and were committed to getting those guys off the roster if they were terrible. Drew Pomeranz turned into a reliever they could trade for Mauricio Dubon. They made 1 million waiver claims, including Hanser Alberto, who was a Giant for 8 games before putting up 3.1 WAR with the Orioles that season. And they got Mike Yastrzemski in a deal for a double-A pitcher, Tyler Erb, who was on the 40-man roster and never made it to the majors with the Orioles. What they
Much
did is,
to the dismay of clothing vendors all around Oracle Park, there is no Tyler Erb.
What they did, though, is they didn't sign or acquire anyone who was going to block the way for a prospect pitching in the big leagues. By signing Tyler Mahle and Adrian Hauser this offseason, Carson Whisenhunt didn't make 15 starts. Now, I don't know if Carson Whisenhunt is good at all, but what I do know is that Adrian Hauser isn't. And I would have liked to have seen Carson Whisenhunt make those starts.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen the Giants make a waiver claim on a pitcher who'd been DFA'd elsewhere, who's got some starts under his belt, and have him start instead of Tyler Mahle. Like, the idea that these C and D list free agents who are total rehab and reclamation projects are going to be better than the guys who are 24, 25 years old and looking at, potential futures in Major League Baseball. It's just wrong. So you can sign your Jorge Solers, you can sign your Mitch Hanigers, you can sign your Jock Petersons, but at some point you've got to clear the way. Those guys are not going to be anchoring playoff teams. They're just not. They never have. They never will. And so why not find an Otto Lopez like the Giants had in their farm system in 2024, but chose Nick Ahmed over him? Nick Ahmed was chosen over Otto Lopez. I'm no expert in asset management, but they didn't need to do that. They did not need Nick Ahmed to be the opening day shortstop.
I almost brought up Nick Ahmed when you were celebrating Brandon Crawford's steady defense. I was like, Nick Ahmed slander. I hear you. I'm just trying to put myself back in off-season mode. They came into the season knowing they would have Webb and Roop and Ray to feel good about, and they needed to fill those 2 slots. And honestly, taking a 1-year flyer on Tyler Mahle, didn't really seem that crazy to me. He had been good in Texas, and those 1-year deals, that was kind of a Farhan specialty, right?
Oh, I think it was fine at the time. What I'm saying is don't do it again.
Oh,
we've seen it done the last 3 or 4 years, and it's holding the Giants back. And, in the past, they didn't have pitchers who could come up and make those starts. In the past, they didn't have position players who could come up and take those at bats. The farm system's got to the point where, I would like to see, 10 to 15 starts of Matt Tugboat Wilkinson. He might not be good, but I'd rather see him than, some pitcher who's ready for a $10 million deal.
Right. I think the person I was thinking of when you were describing these C-list deals is Harrison Bader. I know the Giants, in theory needed a center fielder, but this roster does not need Harrison Bader. And Harrison Bader's health has made it clear that he does not need the Giants roster.
Yes.
And he's got another year on his deal. I mean, he's going to come back.
Bader, Hauser, and Mahle cost you $40 million. That you didn't go out and sign 5 relievers to 1-year, $2 million deals. And you've got a bullpen that has hope.
Sure.
It might not be any better than your current bullpen, but at least you tried in the bullpen.
Hand those $40 million to Tarek Skubal. Thank you very nice.
Yeah, exactly. It's play in the Farhan's first off season. The other comparison that I'll make is while he didn't sign anyone, he did go after Bryce Eldridge, and famously the Giants. Yeah, or Bryce Harper, yes. Bryce Harper, not Bryce Eldridge. Bryce Eldridge
couldn't say no to the
Bryce
Giants.
Eldridge was not allowed to be in contact with adults at that time. Farhan did go after Bryce Harper, and he made the 10-year, $310 million deal. The Giants famously finished second, and it was
because of Bruce Bochy's uncertain future. Okay, Bryce. All right,
it was
pal.
either an A-list swing or it was Hanser Alberto and Mike Yastrzemski. And I think that's the
nowhere
approach.
in between. Nowhere in between.
The approach. Yeah.
And I totally agree. That's kind of how I feel. I say the Tarek Skubal name mostly in jest, but it does feel like if the Giants are going to be shopping in free agency, you better be at the top of the market or scraping the bottom of the barrel looking for lottery tickets, and not 2-year deals with Harrison Bader types where you've got 2 or 3 other young outfielders that you could get similar, maybe less production, but maybe more production. Just you're costing yourselves opportunities for growth and to see what you really have. So I'll bring this part of the segment to an end by reiterating that if the Giants are going to guarantee 95 losses for the next 3 years in order to get a handful of lottery tickets in the low minors, I'm not really interested in that. But I also don't think Willie Adames, Matt Chapman, I guess specifically those two, I don't really think they're blocking anybody. Again, you're probably better off having one and not both of those guys on the team.
Yeah. I mean, you could make the case that, they're going to block Casey Schmidt in 2027 from having a job because Casey is probably not a shortstop.
Are you factoring in the Luis Arraez extension?
Adames is certainly not a shortstop in 2027,
Right.
and Matt Chapman's playing Casey's best position. Maybe Parks Harbor is the third baseman in
Yeah.
2027. I don't know that I'm ready to turn things over to Harbor just yet. I think you'd like to see 200-300 more at bats at AAA, and that's a big gamble to move off of Matt Chapman. But again, Chapman doesn't fit any sort of a current timeline for this team because he's 33.
Yeah.
So, are you going to rely on him to be the 7 hitter on your 2028 San Francisco Giants? I don't know.
No, just the rebuild topic in general, philosophically. That's kind of all we have to really debate.
All right, good stuff there. And if you want the entire Giants Postcards podcast, go to Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Connor and I get together on a weekly basis and discuss the San Francisco Giants in great detail. And you can always, of course, hear snippets of that show on our Saturday program whenever I host here on Giants Warm Up. So, on the other side, we are going to give you the pitching matchup for today's ball game. We'll give you the lineups, keep you updated on scores around Major League Baseball. There's a lot of business to take care of on the program this morning, and we want to get you to all of that. So we'll continue breaking down last night's ball game, some of the big moments, a back-and-forth affair between the Giants and the Angels, and get you set for today's matchup. Pre-game at 12:05, first pitch coming your way at 1:05 p.m. Pacific Time out at Oracle Park. With producer Rafael Corral, I'm your host, Kerry Crowley, hanging out with you until the start of Giants pregame right here on KNBR 104.5 680, the sports leader.
Silseth throws. Devers hits a fly ball to left field. That's going to be plenty deep enough. Meckler back, it's over his head, bounces on the track, up over the wall. Rodriguez comes in to score. Arise will stop at third. Devers and Eldridge will celebrate. They only needed the one. And the Giants have walked it off here with the base hit from Devers. 7-6 the final score. They're trying to rip the jersey off Devers, and I think they got it. The Gatorade pass out at shortstop, and the Giants can celebrate a much-needed win. It was not easy.
Our KNBR Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the sports leader.
We are back here on Giants Warm-Up. Kerry Crowley hanging out with you this morning, getting you set for Giants baseball on the radio. And that really was a great walk-off call last night from Dave Fleming. Some confusing circumstances as Rafael Devers hit what looked to appear to be a ground rule double. But again, Dave notes the Giants only needed the one. Luis Arraez stopped at third base. So while Devers hit what could be a ground rule double, instead it's a single. The Giants win 7-6, not 8-6. It's a little different from like a walk-off home run where everyone comes around and scores. A little known scoring rule book quirk there, but Dave with a really good job breaking it down as always. And we'll talk with him in about an hour or so when we go inside the booth at Oracle Park and catch up with the Giants broadcaster ahead of today's ball game, the 104th that the Giants are playing this season. Today, they take the field against the Los Angeles Angels. Giants 43-60, the Angels 41-63. The countdown to the Major League Baseball August 3rd trade deadline is on, and today could be Robbie Ray's final start for the San Francisco Giants, and almost certainly his final home start. Ray in the final year of a 5-year contract that he signed with the Seattle Mariners. He was traded halfway through it to the San Francisco Giants, and this season 8-6 with a 3.33 earned run average. He deserves to pitch for a contender. I think he can help a contender, and I think that the Giants should get a decent return, potentially a top 150, top 200 prospect in exchange for trading Robbie Ray. So 8-6 on the season. Like I said, a 3.33 earned run average. The strikeouts per 9 innings are down this year. He is striking out fewer than a batter per inning, but nevertheless, I think that Ray is someone who can, help a rotation, probably make 11 starts before the end of the season, and then potentially pitch, say like a game 4 of an NLDS or an ALDS. Same is true of a championship series and potentially even the World Series. You trust him to get through a lineup 1.5-2 times, and I think that he will be able to do that come the postseason, assuming he's on a contender after this August 3rd trade deadline. Don't believe that the Giants will be tendering Ray a qualifying offer. I think he's already gotten one of those if he does stay in San Francisco through the remainder of the season, and so I think it just makes sense. Take the best deal possible. Get Robbie Ray on a team where he can pursue some postseason dreams, which is not something that he'll be able to do here in San Francisco, and not something he was ever able to do in San Francisco, considering this team has not made the playoffs since the 2021 season. A rough stretch for the San Francisco Giants, who were once again focusing on the future at this year's trade deadline. Some interesting stories today from around baseball media. There was a story put out by The Athletic and some great reporters on this one. Spencer Nussbaum, who covers the Washington Nationals, Will Salmon, who covers Major League Baseball, really plugged in with agents. They wrote a story about C.J. Abrams of the Washington Nationals, who's had just an outstanding season, and how his success, in their words, deepens the dilemma for the Nationals at the trade deadline. And they mentioned that last offseason, the San Francisco Giants were shopping for a middle infielder for C.J. Abrams to potentially come over and help out this club, maybe play some second base, maybe play shortstop and move Adames over to second base. But they mentioned that the Giants at the time were interested in including Joshua Gonzalez, who's one of the top 50 prospects in Major League Baseball and one of the top, if not the number one prospect in the San Francisco Giants farm system. Just wrapped up an incredible summer down with the Arizona Complex League Giants. He's 18 years old, is headed to Low A San Jose to go play some shortstop there. And The Athletic reported this, and I know that other outlets have reported this as well, that the Giants were potentially open to including Joshua Gonzalez in a C.J. Abrams trade. And I know that Abrams has been outstanding. He's an all-star this year for the Nationals, But I actually think you don't make that trade right now if you're the San Francisco Giants. And obviously, they are not looking to buy at this year's deadline. But Gonzalez has had such a promising start to his minor league career down in the Dominican Summer League last year and the Arizona Complex League this year that I think, considering the Giants probably won't contend in 2027, it's a stretch to say that they'll contend in 2028. You build for the future, and Gonzalez looks like the shortstop of the future for this ball club, should be a premier defender at a position where the Giants have a lot of top prospects. Luis Hernandez is someone who has done a ton in his minor league career. And yeah, I think, I think, the Giants are really looking forward to seeing what some of these guys can do. So it's not a deal that you would make, and certainly not something that I think the Giants would be entertaining at this year's deadline. Raf, I want to see if we can get that final call last night one more time. I know that we came in with it, but I had an idea based on that final call and some of the discussion around trade talks, based on the names that you hear in the final call. So if we're able to get that Rafael Devers walk-off that Dave Fleming called, let's play that one more time here.
Silseth throws. Devers hits a fly ball to left field. That's going to be plenty deep enough. Meckler back, it's over his head, bounces on the track, up over the wall. Rodriguez comes in to score. Arise will stop at third. Devers and Eldridge will celebrate. They only needed the one, and the Giants have walked it off here with the base hit from Devers. 7-6 the final score. They're trying to rip the jersey off Devers, and I think they got it.
All right, so the reason I wanted to play that final call one more time is I was thinking about all the names in that call who've been included or discussed in trade talks or speculation over the last 365 days or so. You hear Arise coming around third. Obviously, he's one of the Giants' top trade chips at this year's deadline. You hear Devers at the plate, and obviously he's the one who ultimately, brings home the winning run with the walk-off for the San Francisco Giants. He also had the 2-run home run early in that ball game. Devers traded last year from the Boston Red Sox, and there's been some speculation that if the Giants found the right suitor, they might be open to moving him at this year's deadline. I think that is a stretch. I'd put it at under a 5% chance right now, but nevertheless, Devers' name has been constantly involved in trade discussions over the past year plus, ever since his frustration with the Boston front office. You heard Eldridge's name in there, and I don't think the Giants were ever seriously interested in trading Bryce Eldridge, but after the acquisition of Rafael Devers, there was some discussion among, Giants media members and fans. Maybe it would be best if the Giants traded Eldridge for a top pitching prospect or a top pitcher to fortify this roster. I think they're thrilled that they didn't make that kind of move, but you heard his name in there as well. And then there was one other name in there that I thought was worth mentioning. That was Jesus Rodriguez, who the Giants acquired at last year's trade deadline from the New York Yankees, a catcher who can move around the diamond, a utility player. I don't know that Rodriguez is going to have that much of a future with the San Francisco Giants at the big league level. I like the bat. I'm not sure there's a defensive position for Jesus Rodriguez that you really feel comfortable sticking him at. And, maybe if the Giants make some bigger moves at this year's deadline, he gets a look at, say, second base. If Casey Schmidt can continue playing third or out in left field, if they move Elliot Ramos, maybe you just stick Jesus Rodriguez at second base, give him 55 games to see what he can do at the plate, see if he can hit his way into a role in 2026. But that call right there from Dave Fleming on the walk-off just goes to show the extent of the trade discussions that have been surrounding the San Francisco Giants and the number of names, I think, who've been included in the speculation surrounding this team. Rodriguez, one of 4 players the Giants acquired from the New York Yankees at the deadline last year. A couple of pitchers who probably won't make it to the big league level, but really the guy who looks like the best prospect in that deal was not ranked as a top prospect in the Yankees organization at the time of the trade last year is Parks Harbor, former undrafted free agent out of North Carolina who signed in the Yankees farm system and has just done nothing in his minor league career other than hit the ball extremely hard. He got off to a great start this year after an injury, slowed him down at the beginning of the season. He got off to a great start at Double-A Richmond. He's worked his way up to Triple-A Sacramento, and it would not shock me at all if the Giants took a closer look at Parks Harbor at the big league level later on this season. There's a couple of prospects who are playing down at AAA right now who I think could get a look for the Giants. I mentioned earlier on this morning that, you could take a closer look at Joe Whitman, who's been pitching out of the bullpen of late for AAA Sacramento. You could take a look at him either as a left-handed reliever or in the rotation. You could look at Matt Tugboat Wilkinson, who they acquired in that Patrick Bailey deal. Bo Davidson recently got the call to AAA Sacramento from AA Richmond. Bo Davidson hits the ball well. He was a center fielder throughout the early portion of his minor league career, has recently started playing in the corner some at AAA Sacramento. And I think, you trade Jung-Hoo Lee, you trade Elliot Ramos, you find a taker for Harrison Bader, which doesn't seem all that likely. Maybe that opens up a path to Bo Davidson coming up to the big league level. So there are some players down at AAA Sacramento who I think could get a look by the end of this season, and maybe an under-the-radar candidate, not someone who's going to stick or be probably anything more than a fourth or fifth outfielder on the major league club. Turner Hill, a guy who's had a really impressive season down at AAA Sacramento. Super high contact guy, rarely strikes out, has hit over 300 pretty much the entire season, and not with a huge OPS, but enough that the Giants might want to look at Turner Hill as a candidate to bring up in August and September. So the countdown to the August 3rd trade deadline continues. Luis Arias, he is almost certainly headed elsewhere. Robbie Ray, today's starting pitcher, he is almost certainly headed elsewhere. And we will see the extent of Buster Posey's moves. Does he trade away from this bullpen? Someone like JT Brubaker could help another squad right now. Maybe there's some young pitchers down in the Giants' pen that could intrigue some other teams, as the Giants will probably rebuild this entire bullpen over the course of this offseason. Does Buster part with a controllable outfielder in Elliot Ramos? Would he ever consider trading Casey Schmidt, who Jim Bowden brought up as a potential, good fit for the Cleveland Guardians earlier this week in an Athletic article? So just a lot going on. It's a very busy week, and I'm really looking forward to hearing all the various analysts here on KNBR break it down, including later on this afternoon, Bill Lasky will have a great show for you on Extra Innings. Always some great insight and interviews with Bill, and so be sure to stay tuned post-game today after the Giants and the Angels for Extra Innings. Tomorrow morning, you'll have Marty Lurie leading you off with Talking Baseball. I'll join around 11:15, and we should have a lot of fun discussing the upcoming Major League Baseball trade deadline. So it's the Giants and it's the Angels. It's Ryan Johnson, 23-year-old right-hander for Los Angeles. Robbie Ray, big left-hander for San Francisco. 8-6, 3.33 earned run average, potentially his final start at Oracle Park. We got Giants pregame coming your way shortly right here on KNBR. Producer Rafael Corral, your host Kerry Crowley, hanging with you on Giants warm-up this morning. Appreciate everyone who's tuned in and caught up with us on the state of the San Francisco Giants. More coming up next right here on The Sports Leader.